driving you call. I pick up whenever you call. I just wanna be the one to give you what you want. I put you in the East Saint Laurent, right around town with your head down. I know you like it when I tell you what you want. And you're in what you playing with tomorrow. I can tell your friends you wanna yeah, yeah. You like to go slow. We can go fast.
It was described as just another electric night in the desert. The kind people expected at a massive festival where lights pulse endlessly, crowds roar without pause, and every stage is designed to overwhelm the senses. Yet somewhere between the thunder of bass drops and a set list soaked in nostalgia, something subtle began to unfold. Something no one planned for, no one announced, and no one could have predicted. Because while the music carried on and the audience remained locked into the rhythm, a short clip quietly surfaced online, at first slipping through unnoticed, then suddenly spreading everywhere at once. And in that fleeting moment, what should have been just another performance transformed into the most talked about storyline of the entire weekend, as a familiar figure appeared in the background, partially hidden, barely visible, reacting for only a few seconds. Yet those seconds were enough to ignite endless speculation. And just like that, the night took on a completely different meaning, because the footage itself was far from perfect. It was shaky, captured on a phone, slightly off angle, the kind of recording that felt accidental rather than deliberate, showing Justin Bieber fully immersed in his performance, completely absorbed in a moment that already had the audience hanging onto every lyric, every beat, every memory tied to the songs he was bringing back to life. And then, almost by coincidence, the camera shifted just enough to reveal someone in the crowd watching him, someone whose identity immediately became the center of attention, as fans quickly began insisting that it was Selena Gomez, even though there was no official confirmation, no clear close-up, no undeniable proof, just a resemblance, a posture, a timing that felt too aligned to ignore. And in the world of celebrity culture, that small amount of uncertainty was more than enough to send the internet into a frenzy, as people replayed the clip again and again, analyzing every frame, every movement, every shadow, trying to convince themselves and others that what they were seeing was real. And if this moment is already pulling you in, hit subscribe now, because stories like this only get deeper the more you follow them. And what made the clip so captivating was not simply the possibility of who was in it, but what that possibility represented. Because Justin Bieber performing at a festival like that was already significant. His presence alone carried weight, but the way he structured his set made it even more powerful, leaning heavily into songs that defined an entire era, songs that fans had grown up with, songs that were tied to specific memories and emotions. Tracks like Baby and With You were not just performed, they were relived, turning the stage into a time capsule that transported the audience back to a different chapter of his life. A chapter that many people still associate closely with Selena Gomez. And so, when viewers believed, they spotted her watching him perform those exact songs in real time. It created an emotional loop that felt almost surreal, as if the past and present had collided in the most unexpected way, unfolding in front of thousands of people, yet somehow captured in a single fleeting clip that lasted only seconds but carried the weight of years. And online reactions followed exactly as one might expect: intense, divided, passionate, with some fans completely convinced that it was her, pointing out details like the silhouette, the hairstyle, even the subtle way the figure tilted her head during a particular note, while others pushed back, arguing that the lighting, the distance, and the quality of the video made it impossible to confirm anything with certainty. Yet despite the disagreement, the question of whether it was actually Selena Gomez began to feel less important than the narrative people were building around the possibility. Because if it truly was her, the implications felt layered, complex, and deeply human, given that she had largely kept her distance from anything publicly connected to Justin Bieber in recent years, as both of them had moved forward with their lives, grown into different versions of themselves, and created paths that no longer seemed to overlap in obvious ways. Which is why the idea of her being present quietly, anonymously, standing in a crowd, and watching him perform added a dimension that felt both unexpected and strangely relatable. Not dramatic, not performative, just present. And that presence, if real, carried a quiet kind of significance that resonated far beyond the clip itself. Because there was no confrontation, no dramatic gesture, no attempt to draw attention. If anything, the figure appeared calm, composed, almost reflective, as if simply observing a moment that once belonged to both of them, but now existed independently. And that is the part that stayed with people, the idea of witnessing something that used to be part of your life, now unfolding without you in a completely different context. And before we go further into how this story unfolds, make sure you subscribe so you do not miss the next twist, because moments like this rarely end where they begin. And of course, there was also the possibility that the internet had simply misidentified the person in the clip, something that has happened countless times before, especially in environments like large festivals where lighting shifts constantly, crowds blur together, and countless individuals could resemble someone famous under the right conditions, making it entirely plausible that what people believed they saw was not actually what was there. And yet even that possibility did not diminish the impact of the moment, because what people were reacting to was not just the identity of the individual in the footage, but the story they were projecting onto it. A story about timing, memory, and the unexpected ways the past can resurface when least expected. And Justin Bieber's performance itself only intensified that narrative, as there was a noticeable emotional edge in certain songs, a depth in his delivery that fans quickly picked up on. Whether it was intentional or simply the natural energy of performing in such an environment remained unclear, but when paired with the circulating clip, it created a storyline that felt almost cinematic, as if two people who once shared a significant connection were now occupying the same space. Without acknowledgement, one commanding the stage, the other potentially standing quietly in the crowd, both surrounded by thousands of people, yet still linked by a history that continued to capture the attention of millions. And it became the kind of moment that did not require confirmation to leave a lasting impression, because sometimes the suggestion alone is enough to spark something meaningful. And interestingly, neither Justin Bieber nor Selena Gomez chose to address the clip. There were no statements, no subtle hints dropped on social media, no indirect references that could confirm or deny what people believe they saw. And in a time where even the smallest details are often clarified almost immediately, that silence felt deliberate, as if both of them understood that not everything needed to be explained, that not every moment required a clear answer, and that sometimes leaving things open to interpretation allowed them to exist in a more authentic way. And that silence only fueled the curiosity further, encouraging people to keep watching, keep analyzing, keep wondering as the festival continued and new performances began to